Hi, it's Miss Wertz. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our rhetorical analysis that we started. We did our very first one, and I really wanted to ensure that we were all following the exact same guidelines. So the first thing we did was we went over the soapstone, and we really looked at what the subject is of a piece of literature. What is the piece about? What is the content, the ideas that are contained within the text? And what is exactly the author talking about to their audience? The occasion, that's the time and the place of the piece. And what is the context that prompted the writing? So why did the author write for their intended audience? What's going on politically? What's happening in society during that time? The audience is the person in which the piece is actually directed to. So in this case, Judy Brady's I Want a Wife, her audience are women who would pick up, this New York magazine and read her article. But what was the purpose? I think the purpose, we came to the conclusion that her purpose was, gosh, wouldn't it be great, she is a wife and a mother, and wouldn't it be great to have a wife of her own to do all of the duties that she does for her husband. The speaker, of course, is Judy Brady. She happens to be a wife and a mother. And the tone, there's some sarcasm, and there's some actual, really some things to actually give pause and think about. So we went over this, and you guys completed your soapstone, and we went into it in depth. Next came the writing part. And I really want to address the writing part because as we go into writing our rhetorical analysis, we are going to follow this format. The very first thing that we are going to do in our opening paragraph is build context and introduce the author and title, if there is one. We know sometimes there's not a title. And second, introduce the topic. And third, provide a thesis. So we're building context, we're introducing the author and a title if there is one, and second, we're introducing the topic, and third, providing the thesis, okay? And, in that order. Pretty much in that order. When you're building context and introducing the author, that should be in your first one or two sentences. Also, too, we really looked at a lesson in which we went over MLA format. I'm still seeing some issues with the MLA format. The majority of it, you guys have done a fabulous job, but the date here in particular, I need you guys to go back if you think you might be guilty of accidentally writing the date differently. Please fix that. So here we go with our introductory paragraph, and obviously this is very short. It's an example. It's a sample opening paragraph. So in the intro, in Judy Brady's I Want a Wife, her article illustrates the shift women were taking in their role of housewife to working mother, many juggling both roles, while men, on the other hand, juggled one. And then we learned from the article they were juggling their job, while women were juggling all of these different duties. So this 1970s rally speech made its way into the New Yorker and has become an anthem for women. Remember, it was originally a speech, and then it made its way into the New Yorker. Here comes our thesis statement. In this essay, Brady uses both ethos and pathos, to juxtapose the inequalities found in 1970s suburbia. So she really kind of wants to look at the contrast of what's happening, and she's going to be pulling on some ethical dilemmas here. What are the ethics with this? And pathos, also pulling on some heartstrings. And again, you could have used any number of things in your in the last sentence, which is your thesis statement. Okay, yes, this is a short opening paragraph. You could add a couple more sentences, but we want to make sure that you are very, very clear on this part here of building context, introducing the author and the title, and second, introducing the topic, and third, providing a thesis. It's very important that you follow this order in your opening paragraph. Now, next, the claim should reinforce your thesis statement. So, Brady's Feminist Manifesto reminds the reader of the moral obligation meaning ethos here, oftentimes unnecessarily put upon the backs of wives and mothers. It seems they must, without question, slip into the role of doting wife and mother. Brady uses repetition. Again, authors use rhetorical devices to enhance their rhetorical strategies. So in this case, she's using this particular example. She uses ethos. It seems they must, without question, slip into this role of doting wife and mother. Brady uses repetition, that's her rhetorical device, throughout to drive home her point of how wonderful it would be to indeed have a wife, when she states, and then again, after we make this claim reinforcing our thesis, we put in data. We put in data from the text. And this is a short example. I want a wife, I want a wife. She's showing this repetition here. And then the warrant reinforces the data and what the data proves. So warrant, it's a claim data warrant paragraph. Warrant, her incessant cry for a wife much like herself is therefore pointing out how pleasant it would be for a woman to have her own wife to cook, clean, and care for the children while she pursued her own goals and education. The parallel structure, again, rhetorical device, enhancing the strategy here of ethos, gives the audience a sense of a child wanting for what they want, much like the husband whines for his needs within the article. So it's like, okay, let's take a look at this ethically. She's doing all of these things. Deep down, she desires to have a career of her own. Is that morally okay to want that? Absolutely. So she does use ethos. She uses ethos, excuse me. So in the next body paragraph, this body paragraph should mimic this one. A claim, some data, and a warrant. Remember, the claim backs up the thesis statement. So in this case, you're going to move on to talking about pathos and how it juxtaposes the inequalities found in 1970s suburbia. And you're going to make a claim. You're going to show where it's found in the actual text itself with the warrant and with the data, and then you're going to warrant it. You're going to explain the data and what the data proves. And the conclusion. So we talked about how can we efficiently create a conclusion, and that is by copy and pasting your intro. And then using fresh, new language. Okay? So here we have in the conclusion, Brady's commentary reveals. Remember, this isn't a story. I've read a few times that students said this story. It's not a story. It's an actual article. It's a speech. So, and it's Brady's commentary reveals the uncomfortable change that was taking place for women and their role as a housewife and oftentimes working mother. This speech and publication became an anthem for women whose roles went underappreciated and oftentimes overlooked during the women's rights movement. Moreover, this article illustrates the error of wives and mothers who had more than just one job or responsibility. She points out the moral dilemma women faced with their male counterpart having oftentimes just one thing to worry about. So men just have to go to work and come home, and then the wife entertains for parties, puts the kids to bed so that the husband can have his friends over and it's quiet. So this essay not only cleverly records the cookie-cutter picture of suburbia, but it also is a reminder about how far women have come within society. So again, in your conclusion, you're going to kind of sum up any loose ends by restating what you did in the intro. You're going to restate what you did in the intro, but you're going to use fresh language. You're not going to say like, oh, like I told you before in the when you first started reading my paragraph, my essay, you're just going to do some commentary here in your conclusion that basically is a repetition of the intro using fresh language. It's a comment on it, okay? So please make those changes to your essay. You guys have done an excellent job in class discussions and in getting started with your essay. And this is our first one, and I know we can all improve on these essays, and they will turn out fantastic. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.